My name is Layla. I'm 34 years old, and for most of my adult life, people have called me the quiet one, at work, at family gatherings, even among friends, the kind of quiet that people confuse with weakness, or worse, with irrelevance. I work in tech data analytics. Specifically, for the past 5 years, I've held a mid-level position at a financial software company just outside Manhattan. It's the kind of job where you're expected to be sharp, decisive, vocal in meetings. I was good at the work, very good. Actually, my salary was $95 a year, respectable for the role, and I always delivered results ahead of deadlines, but no one ever really noticed. They praised louder voices, promoted flashier personalities. My manager once said during my annual review, "You're incredibly dependable, Layla. I just wish you'd speak up more." And then she gave the leadership opportunity to Brian, the guy who liked to interrupt people with half-baked ideas and wore Patagonia vests like they were armor. Around the office, I'd overhear comments I wasn't supposed to hear. "She's sweet but kind of invisible, probably not leadership material." I got used to being underestimated. But that feeling didn't start at work. It started at home. I grew up in a tightly knit Middle Eastern family in a quiet suburb of New Jersey. My father was an electrical engineer. My mother a teacher before she gave it up to raise us full-time. I'm the middle child wedged between Lana, my older sister, and Samia, my younger one. Lana is the golden child, always has been. She's a cardiothoracic surgeon at a private hospital in Boston, pulling in over $400,000 a year. She drives a Tesla Model S, owns a condo with views of the Charles River, and has a fiancé who went to Stanford. My parents can't mention her name without swelling with pride. When we were growing up, Lana was the star of every dinner conversation. My mother used to say, "Lana's hands are blessed, she saves lives." Meanwhile, if I brought home an A in calculus or an award from my school's robotics club, my dad would smile politely and say, "That's good, Habibti, but medicine, that's real impact." And then there's Samia, the baby of the family. She's in marketing. Bright and outgoing. People love her instantly. She's always had this ability to walk into a room and own it. I admire that about her. I envy it, too. In our house, being quiet wasn't just a personality trait, it was a problem to be fixed. I heard it in whispers, in the way relatives spoke about me. "She's smart, but too shy. She needs to be more like Lana, or worse. She's such a nice girl, it's a shame she never quite found her path." No one ever said it directly, but I felt it all the same. I was the filler child, not a disappointment, but not someone you bragged about either. I was tolerated, expected to be grateful, and I was, for a long time. Until I wasn't. It was supposed to be a celebration. March 2022, my brother Adam was getting married in Princeton, New Jersey, the kind of wedding that screamed prestige over 250 guests, a 7-piece string ensemble flown in from Boston, and centerpieces that probably cost more than my monthly rent. The reception was held at the Palace at Somerset Park. I remember the chandeliers, they sparkled like they were trying to outshine each other. I wore a deep green satin dress I'd saved up for. It was modest but elegant. I didn't want to stand out, but I didn't want to disappear either. I arrived early, hoping to catch Adam before the chaos began. We used to be close, when we were younger. He was the only one who never made me feel small. He taught me how to ride a bike. He helped me sneak snacks past curfew. But something changed after he got engaged to Nina. Nina came from money, the kind that doesn't blink at $800 floral arrangements or $12,000 wedding photographers. Her family owned a string of private dental clinics in the Northeast. Her smile was perfect white, wide, practiced, from the start. I had a feeling I wasn't her kind of people. Still, I smiled. I showed up. During cocktail hour, I noticed something odd. Guests were being handed personalized programs with little notes from the bride and groom, one of my old high school teachers, who was there through my father's connections, waved his at me. "Yours was lovely, Layla," he said. I blinked. Mine. He held it up. On the back of each program was a short paragraph thanking the guests by name and mentioning their contributions, some with funny anecdotes, some with heartfelt lines. I hadn't received one. I brushed it off. Maybe it was a printing error, or maybe mine was misplaced. Until the toast began. Lana gave a glowing speech about family legacy and resilience. "Adam is the rock of this family," she said, pausing dramatically. "And Nina, you've brought grace and beauty into our lives. Together, you represent everything this family stands for: strength, ambition, and class." My stomach turned. I felt my face flush, but it was what Nina said next that truly broke something inside me. She took the mic, smiling at the crowd. "I just want to thank everyone who supported us, especially those who've contributed so generously to help us start our new life." Her eyes swept the room, then landed purposefully on me. Some gave gifts, some offered time, and some, like Layla, well, she gave what she could. Laughter. Actual laughter. A few heads turned toward me. I froze. I had given them a $5 check. I'm not rich, but I wanted to show up for my brother. I wanted to contribute. Quietly, respectfully. I had saved for months. What she said wasn't just humiliating, it was calculated. Later that evening, I tried to speak with Adam. I found him outside, near the garden fountain, taking a break from the endless photos. Did you know Nina was going to say that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He looked down at his drink. "She didn't mean it like that." "I gave you $5,000, I said, louder than I meant to. That was my savings, my support." He sighed. "Layla, come on, you're being sensitive. Everyone knows you're not involved like the rest of us." I stepped back, involved. "You don't come to the family meetings. You're always off in your own world with your tech stuff." "That tech stuff paid for your wedding gift," I snapped. Silence. And then he said something that finally broke the illusion I had held onto for too long. "Mom and Dad don't expect much from you. Layla, you've always kind of done your own thing. Lana's the one stepping into Dad's shoes. You know that." I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just nodded. I walked back into the ballroom, picked up my purse, and left. 2 weeks later, I got a message from my mother. "We've decided to go ahead and finalize Dad's will early, just in case. Can you come by next Sunday?" I did. There, at the dining table, sat a printed agreement, my father's estate, which included 3 properties, 2 in California and 1 in New Jersey, and was worth nearly $13 million, would be split 70% to Lana, 25% to Adam, and the remaining 5% divided between miscellaneous family considerations. I was listed only as the recipient of his old Rolex and a dormant 401k account with less than $40,000 in it. I stared at the page, numb. When I asked why, no one said anything at first. Then Lana smiled politely and said, "Well, Layla, you were never interested in the family business or wealth anyway, right?" That night, I went home, sat on the floor of my apartment, and for the first time in years, I allowed myself to cry, not because of the money, not even because of the betrayal, but because I realized I had always been an outsider in my own family. And I was done pretending otherwise. I didn't argue. I didn't demand an explanation. I didn't scream, though every bone in my body wanted to. I just nodded. Then I stood up from that dinner table, my father silent, my mother looking away, Lana thumbing her phone like the conversation bored her, and I walked out. I drove home in silence. No music, Just the low hum of the highway and the echo of my own breath. Shallow and tight. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. I pulled over 3 times just to keep from losing control. It was more than just the betrayal. It was the realization that this wasn't a sudden change. This had been the reality all along. I had just refused to look at it. I'd always told myself that I was choosing distance, that I was focused on my own goals, but in truth, I had been holding out hope for years that someday they would turn around and say, "We see you. We're proud of you." And now I knew they never would. When I got back to my apartment that night, a quiet 1-bedroom in Hoboken with a view of the river, if you stood on your tiptoes in the kitchen, I sat down on the floor and just stared at the ceiling. I didn't cry. Not then. I just felt stuck, empty, as if someone had scooped out the softest parts of me and left nothing but a shell. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Lana. "Don't take it personally. Layla, you know how things are with the family estate. It's not about love." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I deleted it. That was the night I made a decision, not out of rage, not even out of pain, just clarity, cold, precise clarity. I was done. No more birthday gifts, no more family group chats, no more answering when they needed tech support or financial advice. I didn't tell them I was cutting them off. That would have implied I needed their reaction. I didn't. I just stopped. I vanished from the equation. They'd never really included me in anyway. But what they didn't know, what they had never even thought to ask, was that I had never needed their validation. Because for the last 4 years, while they were rolling their eyes at my quiet job and whispering about how I was too independent for my own good, I had been building something they could never imagine. A startup, not the kind you brag about prematurely on LinkedIn, the kind that grows slowly, silently, under the surface like roots pushing through concrete. Linux IQ, an AI-driven analytics company focused on real-time financial modeling for hedge funds and large-cap portfolios. I started it with 2 friends from Stanford. We bootstrapped the first 18 months. Working from rented desks in a WeWork in Soma, I lived off instant ramen and the last of my grad school savings. I coded 16 hours a day. Barely slept. Pitched until my voice cracked. And then came the breakthrough. A beta tool that predicted market swings with 92% accuracy in short-term windows. We got our first term sheet in year 2. $5 million seed from a boutique fund in Palo Alto. Now year 4, we'd raised $72 million in Series B from top-tier venture firms. We had 42 full-time employees. Our clients included 2 of the top 10 hedge funds in the U.S. I was the CEO, and no one in my family had the faintest idea. There's something deliciously sharp about that kind of silence. The power of not telling someone what you've accomplished. The discipline it takes to say nothing when you know your success would shatter their perceptions. That kind of silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. Still, that didn't mean it didn't hurt. Because when you grow up always being the afterthought, always being told to be grateful with less, some part of you never stops wanting to be seen. I remembered, suddenly, being 13, winning 2nd place in the state math competition. I came home beaming, holding the silver medal like a trophy. My father patted my head and said, "2nd place is good. Layla, but your sister just got early admission to Johns Hopkins. That's 1st place." It was always like that, 1 step behind, 1 decibel too soft, 1 page in a family story that was never really about me. And yet, I kept turning my own pages. Not for them, for me. I sat by my window that night, the lights of Manhattan blinking across the water like silent applause, and I made a quiet promise to myself. They will remember me. Not because I demand it, not because I shout, but because one day, they will have no choice. If they couldn't hear me when I was whispering, then they'd just have to hear me when the world started echoing my name. It had been exactly 18 months since the wedding. Since Nina's passive-aggressive jab, since Adam told me I didn't belong, since my parents signed a will that said, In ink and legal terms, we do not value you the same. 18 months of silence. I didn't reach out. I didn't reply to messages. I missed birthdays, holidays, and every family dinner. No one chased me. No one asked why. But I wasn't idle. In those 18 months, Linux IQ went from promising to powerful. We scaled. We partnered. We closed deals I used to dream about in my cramped one-bedroom apartment. By month 10, we were fielding offers from acquisition-hungry giants who couldn't crack our algorithms. One of those offers came from Stellar Core Capital Group, a multinational investment firm known for quietly buying mid-sized tech companies and integrating their IP into their own bloated systems. They'd recently acquired a portfolio of fintech startups, including the company I used to work for, Elara Systems. The moment I saw the name on the acquisition list, something in me lit up. The flame wasn't anger, it was clarity, cosmic timing. I had a meeting with the Stellar Core board the following week. I told them we'd accept their $180 million offer on one condition. I wanted full oversight of all the companies in their fintech division. That included Elara. They agreed. And just like that, I became CEO of the division that now owned my former employer. And no one, not one soul at Elara saw it coming. The first global division meeting was scheduled on a Tuesday morning, 9:00 a.m. EST. Every employee across the division was required to attend. Zoom links were sent. Calendars blocked. No one knew what the meeting was about. They just knew the new leadership was making introductions. I logged in 10 minutes early. I stared at the little grid of names as they began to populate. Dozens of cameras, voices chatting, nervous laughter, tech managers, analysts, product leads, faces I hadn't seen in over a year. Some of them had forgotten me entirely. Others probably assumed I'd left the industry altogether. And then I saw them. Michael Turner, the guy who used to cut me off in every meeting with actually. What Layla's trying to say is, Carla Mendoza, the woman who once suggested I should smile more in presentations if I wanted to be taken seriously. Ethan Brooks, my former team lead, who passed me over for promotion 3 times and told HR I lacked executive presence. I recognized each of them. They didn't see me yet. At exactly 9:00 a.m., the host privileges were transferred to me. The screen changed. And I spoke. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Layla Hakim. I'm your new CEO. There was a flicker of confusion, then shock, then absolute silence. A few jaws literally dropped. One guy's camera froze because he leaned too far forward in disbelief. Another muted herself mid-laugh. Michael leaned in, squinting at the screen. Wait, what he said. I didn't smile. I didn't blink. I just looked straight into the camera. Sometimes, I said, my voice steady, calm. The quietest person in the room is the one building the future. I hope you're ready to listen now. The silence stretched so long I could hear someone's fan buzzing through their mic. I want to start by saying this. I continued. I've worked in this division before. I know the challenges, the culture, the pressure. I know what it's like to have ideas dismissed because they don't come from the loudest voice. And I know what it's like to be underestimated. That ends today. Michael was still staring, blinking furiously. Ethan typed something in the chat, then deleted it. I watched the message disappear in real time. I'll be restructuring leadership, I said, not because I hold grudges, but because excellence deserves a place at the table, and because this company deserves better than the complacency it's been operating with. Carla shifted in her seat. I paused, then added, for those wondering, yes, I left this company quietly, and I built something stronger while you weren't looking. That's not a threat. That's a promise of what's possible when people are given space to grow. I let that hang in the air. Then I wrapped up the introduction and moved into strategy slides. I didn't need to raise my voice. Authority doesn't always announce itself with volume. Sometimes it arrives like a storm you didn't see coming until you're standing in it. That afternoon, I received a text from an unknown number. Layla, is this really you? I'm so sorry if I ever made you feel small. Carla. I didn't respond. Then another came through Michael this time. Hey, can we talk? I think I owe you an apology. Big time. Still no reply. But the one that made me pause was from Adam. I heard what happened. You're the CEO now. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you. I stared at the message for a long time. My thumbs hovered over the screen. Then I typed, "You told me I wasn't involved, so I got involved somewhere else." I didn't wait for a reply. A week later, my parents invited me to dinner. They said they wanted to talk. I agreed. It was a small gathering, just the immediate family. The house looked the same. Nothing had changed in the physical space. But the energy was different, hesitant, almost reverent. Lana was already seated when I arrived. She looked up, surprised to see me in person. "You really didn't say a word," she said, half in awe, half in accusation. "No one asked," I said. Dinner was polite, tense. Then, somewhere between the salad and the main course, my father cleared his throat. "We didn't know what you were building. Layla, if we had, things would have been different." I looked at him, not with anger, just with clarity. "You didn't ask. You never did." Silence. My mother reached for my hand, but I pulled it back gently. "I'm not angry," I said, "just done pretending I have to earn your attention." That night, I walked out of their house feeling lighter than I had in years. They had finally seen me not because I shouted, but because the world had started to echo with my name. And for the first time in my life, I realized I never needed their applause. I had become the person they never expected. The CEO. 1 week after the reveal, my mother texted me, "Come home for dinner. Habibti, just us. We need to talk." I almost didn't go. Part of me wanted to pretend I hadn't seen the message. The old Layla, the one who was always available, always accommodating, would have dropped everything, brought dessert, maybe even offered to cook. But I wasn't her anymore. Still, curiosity has its own gravity. I needed to look them in the eye, not for closure, but to reclaim the space I'd never really been allowed to take. When I walked into the house, everything looked the same. The worn carpet in the hallway, the photo of Lana at her white coat ceremony in a gold frame on the mantel, a faded family portrait from when I was 12, Lana in the middle, Adam on one side, me on the other, smiling stiffly like I didn't belong in the shot. The dining table was set for 5. My mother had made lamb stew, my father's favorite. He sat at the head of the table, older now, thinner than I remembered. Lana was already there, in a navy blouse and diamond earrings, always composed, always polished. Adam came in last. He looked nervous. Everyone did. No one said anything for the first 10 minutes. We ate in silence. The sound of spoons clinking against bowls the only noise. Then Lana cleared her throat. "So," she said, forcing a smile, "we heard about the acquisition." I looked at her but didn't speak. "You should have told us," she added. I set my spoon down. "Why? So you could have written me into the will." My mother flinched. My father shifted uncomfortably. Lana's mouth opened, then closed again. "That's not fair," Adam said. "We didn't know." I looked at him. "Exactly. You didn't know. You didn't ask. Not once in 4 years did anyone ask what I was building. You all just assumed I was floating." "We weren't trying to hurt you," my mother said softly, reaching out to touch my hand. "We just didn't realize how far you'd come." I pulled my hand back. "That's the thing," I said. You never really saw me. You saw what you wanted to. The quiet one, the helper, the invisible sibling who could be counted on to show up, to give without asking for much, to stay in the background. My father opened his mouth to speak but said nothing. I'm not angry. I continued, but I'm not here to play that role anymore. I won't be the afterthought. I won't be the one who's expected to understand while everyone else takes up space. Lana leaned forward. Layla, we didn't mean to exclude you. You did exclude me, I said, cutting her off. My voice didn't rise, but the room felt suddenly smaller. You wrote me out of more than a will. You wrote me out of the story. No one spoke. I took a breath, steadying myself. I'm not here to ask for my share. I don't want your properties. I don't want your guilt. I built something without your support. I stood in rooms you didn't know existed, and I didn't do it to prove a point. But now that you know, let me be clear about what I will and won't accept moving forward. I looked at each of them, one by one. I won't tolerate being minimized. I won't be the go-to when things fall apart, only to be forgotten when they don't. I won't be financially supporting any more emergencies, weddings, or family projects, and I won't be attending events where I'm treated like I don't belong. My mother looked like she wanted to cry. My father still hadn't said a word. Lana looked stunned perhaps for the first time in her life. Someone had told her no, without apology. I'm not doing this to punish anyone, I added. I'm doing this to protect myself. I've learned what I'm worth, and I won't keep shrinking to fit into a family that only sees value in volume or titles. Adam looked down. So that's it, he asked. You're just done. I'm done being who you thought I was, I said. I'm not quiet anymore. I'm clear. The silence that followed wasn't angry. It wasn't defensive. It was hollow, like they knew they had lost something, but didn't quite understand what until it was too late. I stood up, took my coat, and walked toward the door. Thank you for dinner, I said. My mother called out as I opened it. Layla, what do we do now? I turned, paused, and met her eyes. You start by seeing me, I said, not as the sister who stays silent, not as the daughter who says yes, just as me. Then I walked out, and for the first time, the air felt clean. It's been 8 months since that dinner. I now live in a sunlit loft in Brooklyn, just off Fifth Avenue, exposed brick walls, tall windows, quiet in the mornings, chaotic in the afternoons, and somehow perfectly mine. There's a cat who lives here too. His name is Newton. I found him through a rescue group the week after I moved in. He's a little grumpy, entirely independent, and oddly affectionate at the worst possible moments. We get along just fine. I wake up early now, not because I have to, but because I want to. I make coffee slowly, no rushed commutes, no buzzing alarms. I read, I write. I'm working on a book part memoir, part manifesto about women in tech who are underestimated until they weren't. I don't know if anyone will read it. That's not the point. I invest in startups now, mostly led by women, often women of color, always women who've had to fight twice as hard for half the room. I sit on panels, I give talks, I teach one class a semester at NYU called Quiet Power Building Without Permission. And I still keep my silence, but it's a different kind now. It's not the kind that's mistaken for weakness. It's the kind that holds weight, the kind that listens and chooses its moments. I don't need to fill the room to own it. I no longer look back seeking apologies that may never come. I don't reread the will. I don't check my parents' social media or ask how Lana's latest surgery went. I'm not angry. I just don't need them to recognize me anymore. Because I recognize myself. And that after years of craving something as fragile and shifting as their approval feels like freedom. Sometimes, though, late at night when Newton is curled up at the foot of the bed and the city hums in the distance, I still think about that day, the wedding, the program I never received, the laughter that followed Nina's joke. I wonder if I had stood up and shouted right there, would it have changed anything? If I had yelled, "I'm worth more than this" in front of 250 guests, would they have heard me? Or would it have been dismissed again as drama, as overreaction, as a weak plea from the quiet sister who finally broke? I'll never know. But I do know this: I chose a different kind of revolution. Not one of noise, but of action, not begging to be seen, but becoming impossible to ignore, not demanding space at their table, but building a new one with a longer bench, better lighting, and no locks on the door. Sometimes the loudest answer is the life you live after you stop asking for permission. So now, I live fully, deliberately, without apology. And if you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever sat in a room where no one asked what you thought, or grew up in a family that measured love in titles and trophies, you might understand what I mean. You don't need to prove your worth to people who never tried to understand it. You don't need to carry the weight of their vision if it never included your truth. You don't have to stay quiet, but if you do, let it be your choice, not their expectation. Let me ask you something. What would happen if you stopped chasing their approval and started building a life that proves you never needed it? Would they notice? Would they follow? Or would you finally realize that it was never about them at all? I hope you'll tell me. I hope you'll tell yourself. Because sometimes the story we need most is the one where we choose ourselves and mean it.